importance of health and wellness, it has reinforced the need for exercise and also, as it's rightly said in our Vedas, Vyayayam labhate swasthayam dirghayuyam balam sukham आरोग्यम परमम भाग्यम स्वास्थ्यम सर्वस्व ध्यानम। व्यायाम से स्वास्थ्य, लंबी आयु, बल और सुख की प्राप्ति होती है। निरोगी होना एक भाग्य है और स्वास्थ्य से कोई भी कार्य सिद्ध हो सकता है। But dear friends, as we have learned in the previous sessions, yoga is not just an exercise. It is a way of life. It is the union of body, mind and soul. And mentioned in yogas is योगम चित्तवम निरोध। चित्त की वृत्ति को निरोध जो करे वो योग है। भगवान श्री कृष्ण ने खुद भगवत गीता में कहा, योग्यम कमसु कौशलम, कार्य कुशलता भी योग है। एंड योगा फ्रेंड्स इज लाइक द डिवाइन कामधेनु व्हिच फुलफिल्स योर डिजायर्स। योग एक विज्ञान है जो किसी मनुष्य की शारीरिक, मानसिक, बौद्धिक और आध्यात्मिक रूप से विकास करने में मदद करता है। As an oncologist, I have witnessed that yoga benefits in patients. It improves the physical and mental endurance of our patients, and it helps in building the resilience. And amongst the manifold benefits which yoga offers, I think we are learning that it also helps in improving immunity and having a positive frame of mind, especially in such challenging times which we are facing. So today, we will be happy to hear from the masters of the field who have been contributed in the treatment of COVID, and they will be telling us how yoga has helped those who have been afflicted by COVID. So to set the ball rolling, I would request Mr. Vikram Singh ji, who is the director from the Ministry of Ayush, Government of India. He has been from the Engineering Services batch of 2001 and has been posted with the ministry on a central deputation in the last 2 years. He's been taking care of the yoga and the naturopathy section. He himself is a very, very renowned person and is a supporter of blood donation, and he himself has donated blood for almost a dozen times. He has been organizing camps every year in his office to mark Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's birthday when he conducts these camps. He has also written a novel on the life of Shahid Bhagat Singh Ji, and it's named the Chetna Stotra Bhagat Singh Ji. He has a very, very vivid interest in running, biking, tracking, and writing. I welcome you, Vikramji. Please open the house by giving your welcome address.
Thank you, Kanika ji. Namaskar. Benefits of yoga has been known to us for ages, but during the recent time, it has become a health movement. Today's topic, yoga to the support of COVID patient, is very relevant. A lot of research is being done by various research councils, institutions, hospitals, and experts. And it is found that yoga has become a catalyst in management of the present pandemic. You are aware that yoga is also part of National Clinical Management Protocol for management of COVID-19. I take this opportunity to formally welcome Guruji, Dr. H.R. Nagendra ji. It's my proud privilege and welcome you, sir. You have been a lighthouse in the research of yoga, and the Ministry of Ayush always look forward for your guidance on various initiatives on related matters. On behalf of Ministry, I also welcome today's dignitaries and panelists, Dr. Sudhir Kalyanji, panelist Dr. Ashutosh Bhardwaj and Dr. R. Kamani. The last 5 Sundays, we have been doing this Sunday discussion series, and these were really great work by Assocham. And I'm on behalf of Ministry thank Assocham and particularly Madam Meenakshi Sharma and Payal Sharma ji, and we look forward for such activities in future. Friends, we know, जैसा कहते हैं ना, योगा करने की चीज है, करने से ही होगा। और किसी शायर ने भी कहा है, उसको रांझा मत कहो जो ना हुआ फकीर, जो ना जोगन हो सकी सो काहे की हीर। योगा को करने से ही इसका अनुभव और लाभ हमें मिलता है, इसलिए हमें योगा करना चाहिए। और मुझे लगता है कि आयुष मंत्रालय में आने के बाद ये नया आयाम हमारी पर्सनैलिटी में भी जुड़ा है। And on this platform, I take this opportunity to invite you to join the Ministry of Ayush for observation of International Day of Yoga in the morning of 21st June 2021. And there are various programs being conducted. Please follow Ministry's social media website. A lot of good works are being done, during this period. So I thank you once again, all the panelists, today's viewers, those who are connected at the moment, and Assocham for conducting such a wonderful program. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you, Vikramji. I think it is a wonderful initiative by the ministry. And it's the beautiful module which the ministry has released. It's a must see. I think all clinicians should look at it. It has a beautiful module of protocol exercises for different patients. It has a 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes category. I think all clinicians should have a look at it. It has been beautifully drafted. Thank you so much for giving your insights. And thank you for making us all participate in this particular International Yoga Day. So now it is my profound privilege to introduce our next speaker. The next speaker, who would be the keynote speaker for the day, is Padma Shri Dr. H.R. Nagendra Ji. He holds the position of the Chancellor of the Swami Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhan Sansthan, Bengaluru. I actually was fascinated to see his illustrious career journey, which started way back in 1960s in Bengaluru when he started pursuing his mechanical engineering. He got a doctorate from there. He moved on for his postdoctorate research to British Columbia University, and after that he went on to join NASA Marshall Space Flight Center as a research associate. He then joined the Imperial College of Science and Technology as a consultant and a visiting staff in 1972. In 1975, he went on to join the Vivekananda Kendra as an honorary director of training and served in various lead positions in the Vivekananda Kendra Yoga Research Foundation and as a director of the Indian Yoga Institute. And from 2000 till date, he holds the position of the president, Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhan Sansthan, and is currently serving as a chancellor. Such a unique amalgamation of a scientist who practices yoga. He has tremendous contribution academically in form of innumerous research publications and books to his credit in the field of engineering as well as yoga. He has mentored more than 50 PhD students under his academic leadership. He has been recipient to innumerable national and international awards and citations and recognitions for his exemplary contribution to the field of engineering as well as yoga. In 2016, Government of India instituted the honor of Padma Shri Award on him, and very recently, he has been recognized by the Stanford University as Complementary and Alternative Medicine Scientist 158th ranking. That means top 2% of Indian scientists achieving that rank. It is a great privilege. Sir, the panel, the dice is all yours. Please enlighten us how yoga would contribute to the COVID patients in this pandemic.
My dear brothers and sisters, we are so happy that the Association of the Chambers of Commerce, in association with the Ministry of Ayush Virtual Convention Centre and the MDNIY, is organizing this beautiful program to examine how yoga can come to the support of COVID patients. Throughout the world, the COVID has devastated and have become the biggest pandemics of the last 2 years. In India, thanks to our Honorable Prime Minister and the things that we took care of the first wave of COVID very effectively. But the second wave has gone unabated. It has started getting to a large number of lives, unprecedented in the first wave. And also people predict there could be a third wave in November, December. All this would be very effectively tackled. Normally, if you have a good medicine, you have got a good vaccine, according to the modern medical system. But the vaccines have started coming up, and many of them have been fairly effective. So the government of India and all state government have started vaccinating people twice and to build the immune system to face the COVID attack. And the normal precautions one should take have been emphasized greatly. That is, use the mask, use the social distancing, and cleaning up the hands and so on. But a nice way, cost-effective way would be to use the various dimensions of yoga to deal with this. According to yoga, we can maintain our health and promote positive health, prevent diseases effectively. And the key factor related to that is our immune system. Our immune system is a strong army, a very powerful army to deal with all the infectious and contagious diseases from outside, the germs coming from outside, from inside, and also the viruses that may come and attack us. This coronavirus is something very interesting. It's the biggest among all the viruses that we have found so far, 0.025 microns, and it's very beautiful in the form of a beautiful sphere with horns coming out of them. Normally it enters through the nose by various means which have been described so nicely by various experts. And once it starts entering, it will start coming into the respiratory system and causes respiratory distress and can spread everywhere. Our immune system normally recognizes such an enemy entering into the system and can throw it off, can gobble them up and destroy them effectively. For that we have a very strong army of white blood cells. In size, the white blood cells is almost 100 times bigger than the small virus, the corona. Number-wise, the number of coronavirus may enter maybe in thousands or maybe a lakhs. But WBC we have in billions. So number-wise, size-wise, power-wise, our immune system is all geared up and is a very strong army to maintain our health and not succumb to any infection or the virus attacks. A secondary dimension is something like a border security force that we have, where the NK cells that can remove the viruses from the nose as it enters. Therefore, we have a strong possibility of maintaining our health and do not succumb to the virus attacks. But this needs that the immune system is kept intact, is kept healthy, strong, and do not weaken them. The weakening of the immune system takes place because of the stress factor, a wrong lifestyle. We all know that stress has a strong immunosuppressant factor. The stress is related not only to the uncontrolled speed of the mind, but also to the emotional upsurges, anger, greed, jealousy, hatred, infatuation. The most important is the fear complex. This can strongly reduce the power of our entire immune system. Therefore, we have to keep ourselves stress-free under all such circumstances in which we are facing today. Particularly when we are staying home, you may get bored. That's yet another thing which may cause the problems. Or you may get anxious. How long is going to take place and when I can go out and so on and so forth. This is where we have an opportunity to use the yoga techniques to see that you'll be able to maintain your immune system in a healthy way. To stay home with stress-free, joyful, blissful awareness. This is what yoga teaches. Yoga is a science of holistic living. At the body level, it is giving deep relaxation to the body by systematic yogasanas, yogic postures. Then we have slowing down of the breath by using the pranayama techniques. Then we have the calming down of the mind by the techniques of meditation, dhyana. And to maintain the equanimity by using the power of the bhakti yoga, the devotion and the surrender. So we can use any one or two or all of these methods, Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, as it is said, to maintain equanimity, to maintain a stress-free condition, and to be very, very happy amidst this lockdown and quarantines in the houses. So that is the trick that yoga gives us. And once we start doing that, possibility of getting stuck with a COVID infection. Yoga also tells another reason as to why immune system can get into a distorted mode. This is called viparya. Viparya is the wrong knowledge, wrong perception. A person gets jaundice and he thinks that the whole world has become yellow. This is a viparya. Patanjali's sutra says, viparya mithyagnanam atadrupa pratishtham, said. Then seeing a ghost in a post, seeing a serpent in a rope, these are all examples of viparya. So, the immune system has the capacity to decipher who is a friend, who is an enemy. And this is the one that helps the immune system to throw away the enemies and work in tune with the friends. Somehow, if the immune system gets into this viparya mode and thinks that these coronaviruses are very beautiful, gets attracted, and they are all my good friends, it will say, please come in, come in, come in. And it will give easy access to the coronaviruses, and they enter in and you have the infection coming up. Therefore, the whole system of yoga is to remove this viparya and see that your immune system do not get to that wrong, distorted mode of response. So therefore, we have to see that yoga is used to maintain good health, prevent diseases, promote positive health, and make use of this quarantine to learn the art of living in tune with the reality, to be in tune with a blissful awareness. That's called the Karma Yoga. Working in relaxation, action in relaxation, action in blissful awareness is the key essence. Yogastaha kuru karmane sangam tyaktva dhananjaya said. So whether you are inside the room, whether inside the office, whether you are going out, everywhere, whatever actions you are doing, you should maintain that blissful awareness. That's the key essence. Then all of our activities get converted into yoga. Many people wonder how is this possible. Normally when we think of yoga, we think of only a yogic posture or a pranayama or a mudras or a bandhas or kriyas or dhyana. But in Karma Yoga, it is said that every action can become a yoga. How is it possible? Yes, Krishna Bhagavan said it's possible if you know the trick of doing that. So he says in one of the shlokas in the Bhagavad Gita, Pashyan Shunvan Prashan Digran Ashnan Gachan Swapan Shwasan Pralapan Visrujan Grunhan Unmishan Nimishan Nape Indriyan Indriyartheshu Vartanta Yeti Dharayan. Said that seeing, hearing, talking, walking, urinating, excreting, any action that you are doing can all become yoga when you have that blissful awareness inside and do all activities. How is it possible? We all know there are subtler layers of the mind, deeper layers of the mind, and we have a normal mind level. When you are hearing this talk from me, you are trying to understand, but something deep within you, in our deep layers of the mind, something may be bugging you. Oh, my father has got into the COVID and he has been admitted to the hospital, and what would be happening to him? And day by day he was deteriorating, but there was some sense of improvement yesterday. I want to know, I want to know. Some inside is going on. This is the subtler layer of the mind. Krishna Bhagavan says that this inner layer of the mind should be kept always in that blissful awareness, that silence, calmness, peace, and do any activity that you want. Yogastaha kuru karmani. Attune to that self, doing all activities is karma yoga. This is what we have to do. So we have a wonderful opportunity to stay home and practice this karma yoga dimension. Whatever you are doing. You are working at the computer, you are an IT professional, and all your classes are going online. Whatever may be the activity you are doing on, we have to do this thing. Therefore, using all this technology that is available to us in our yoga, we develop simple yoga modules which can be used by people. For people below 16 years, we have got a yoga module. Simple yoga module which have to practice 15 minutes, 20 minutes in the morning and maybe in the evening for prevention. Then for people above 16 years up to 60 years, we have second set of yoga practices. This can be done 2-3 times in a day. And for people above 60 years, we have got another set of simpler yoga practices which can be done by even the elderly people. So this all can be used for the prevention of the COVID, to keep your immune system happy, healthy, strong, full of vitality and energy. But when a person gets into a COVID positive, maybe with a symptomatic or symptomatic things, and they are put into the hospital, we have got another set of practices can be done. Even lying down on the bed, they can do these practices. Among them, the Brahmari is a wonderful tool, that is the humming sound of the bee, and it has been shown by scientific research that once you start doing the Brahmari pranayam, the nitrous oxide is going to increase by 15 times more than normal breathing. Therefore, a large number of people have started using this pranayama and the Brahmari pranayam to see that they will get normalized. And therefore, we have all the possibilities of not getting attacked, not getting infected, and when you get into the attack, we have got the treatment modality of the yoga. So, yoga can support COVID patients effectively. Therefore, we want that we should use this yoga technique which is available on the website, to use profusely and see that you remain healthy, prevent diseases, promote positive health, be full of energy, vitality and joy and happiness, and take this advantage to see that you learn the art of working in blissful awareness throughout the day. Namaskar, thank you, dhanyavad. I wish you all the best. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. I think it was a beautiful message of how we have to be blissfully aware of our holistic well-being. You have beautifully told us about how we can integrate the different dimensions of yoga in improving our immunity. And it was really heartening to know how well you were telling us about the cellular level effects of yoga. The Viparya mode, the distortion of this response because of the Viparya mode, I think would be something we would be really hearing out from our clinicians also, that how they are going to integrate it into their practice on the COVID patients. Thank you so much, sir. It was really enlightening. That brings us to the panel discussions where we have the real frontline warriors who have been on the battleground. We would want to hear from their experiences and also want to know their views on the need of yoga in support of COVID patients. It is my honor to first introduce the panelists. The first panelist for the session is Dr. Cullen. He's a person who thinks ahead of his time. He is the one who introduced digital medicine practice many years back. And now in this COVID era, most of us are following his footsteps. Dr. Cullen is the chair Assocham Healthcare Council. He's the senior consultant of minimal access and bariatric surgery at Sir Gangaram Hospital. Sir has a very, very rich experience of working across hospitals, the Stephen Mala Hospital, B.L. Kapoor Hospital, Max Hospital, Sita Ram Bhartiya Hospital in Delhi. He has been the founder and director for the application, which has been used across the country and even abroad in connecting the patients to their doctors by a smartphone application called My Follow Up. This particular application is available in the Android and iOS version, and it is downloaded by more than 15,000 patients who have been using it clinically for years. I think so you have really created the path for the current digital practice and telemedicine. Sir also runs a campaign on Let Us Fight the Fat. It is a national initiative to control childhood and adolescent obesity in school and college-going students. Sir, we would want to hear you out on your perspective of integration of yoga in support of COVID patients.
Thank you, Kanika ji, for those kind words. And it was a pleasure listening to Nagendra ji and talking about the importance of mental health and physical health. I'll start off by, just repeating those two golden proverbs which we heard in the medical days. One was that health is the true wealth, I think. And the second is prevention is better than cure. What this present corona pandemic has shown us is that literally in the second wave, it was like a war on the streets, and the warriors were not very well armed, and the patients were also not very well armed. About 4 years back, when I was made the chairman of the National Council for Healthcare of Assocham, I had the privilege of being in a group in a five-star hotel where all the luminaries of the various industries were making their own presentations. We had people from telecommunication and other industries talking about the future of India, and everybody was talking about 8% growth and 10% growth. And I was listening to everybody, and the healthcare chair was called the last as usual, because I think over the years no importance has been given to healthcare. So when I got the opportunity to stand up and I said, look, we are all talking about an 8% economic growth. What about the health of the country? India is a young country, more than 50% of the population is less than 35 years of age. And if this population is not healthy, and if this population is not properly channelized, then we have a disaster on hand. And if you see the example of all the developed countries, the countries which have done very well, the Scandinavian countries, they have just focused on two main pillars of the society. One was quality education, and second was good health. This pandemic, I think, has shaken and stirred us, because it has shown us that the catastrophe which occurred in the last week of May and April, I saw it in Delhi and it happened all over the country, was the final culmination of the collapsing healthcare infrastructure. Also, it was a wake-up call to everybody, because people who have lifestyle disorders, people who had diabetes, people who had overweight, obesity was a very, very big risk in patients who had developed corona and developed a severe disease because they were not taking care of the body. So this epidemic has shown us that two are very important things. One, we have to take care of our own body. And when we talk about good body, we are talking about good nutrition, a good diet, some kind of exercises must be incorporated in everybody's lifestyle. And, yoga, which actually started from our own country, was a very scientifically based system. And if somebody who's been practicing yoga, I also try to do it at least, thrice in a week. If you see, every exercise of yoga is very scientifically based. the pranayams, the Chandra-Bedi pranayam, the Surya-Bedi Charan pranayam, the Brahmari pranayam, which Dr. Nagendra was talking about, they actually build up our vital capacity. The lungs, they open up your lungs and teach you deep breathing exercises, actually improves your vital capacity or tidal volumes. Also, you see what happens is in our regular lifestyle, people, let's say, who are working in offices, they are used to only using a particular group of muscles. They sit down, maybe they use their eyes more or their hands more, but probably their back is not used much, and then they start developing problem with their back, or the knees become problematic because they're not doing any knee exercises. So a particular group muscles which are not used, they go into dystrophy. That means they become weaker, and then you have these spasms and other problems. What a good 30 minutes to 45 minutes of yoga teaches us is that if you see these 15-20 asanas of yoga, they actually, whether they are the spinal extension exercises or they're bending or your side stretching or your balancing acts of yoga, they actually make you use those group of muscles which you are not using previously. So it's a very scientific way of managing a system. So what has the corona pandemic taught us? You see, this pandemic is not the end of this thing. It is not going to stop here. We are going to have variants, and then tomorrow we'll have another virus. Maybe it's some other disease. So what can we do the best? So we have to build up our own immunity. We have to see to it that our body is strong enough to fight these infections, strong enough to throw these infections out. And being a bariatric surgeon, I will just share my own experience. When bariatric surgery means people, I take care of extremely obese people, and people, I try to help them out with lifestyle modifications, by dietary modifications, with pharmacological medication. And if nothing else works, I do a bariatric surgery and then make them do 50 to 60 kg. See, I'll tell you, in 1990, the first time when I went to America, I saw these super obese children, these males, and I thought, oh my God, this is happening only in America. Probably never happen in India. And over the next 5-10 years, when we had the big burgers coming and the fast food coming and the Swiggy and other things coming into our own society, we had obesity following suit. And now it's the first time in the world the number of overweight people is equal to the underweight people. So we used to talk about underweight people, we used to talk about famines, we used to talk about poor nutrition, and now we are talking about overnutrition. See, if you remember the time when man was living in caves and he used to eat only when he was hungry. He used to go out, either go and get vegetables or fruits, or maybe try and hunt and get his food and come back and eat. What has happened over the years now? It's now a question of plenty. There's so much to eat that we are eating all the time, and we can eat every time. If nothing is cooked at home, we can call Swiggy or any other Zomato and so many other applications, and within 15-20 minutes, food is there at home. And I think, and the worst thing to happen to our society, I think, was the buffets which were introduced. If you see, and if you go to an average North Indian shadi party, you will see that you go and eat some snacks, then you have a few drinks, and before even actually starting your main course, you have taken about 800 to 1000 calories. Then you have a large spread of the food, you eat that. Then you go to the sweet section, we eat 3-4 types of sweets. Then you come and have a pan. So in one day, in one wedding buffet dinner, you consume 4,000 to 5,000 calories. If you sit and count someday, I'm not saying wrong, you can do 4 to 5,000. So this is the reason of obesity. And with the obesity comes so many other things. With obesity comes diabetes, which is like a termite in the body. It affects every system, your kidneys, your eyes, your nerves, and neuropathies. So it's a disease which affects everything. So combination of obesity and diabetes is called as diabesity. And diabetes and obesity together destroy the system. You destroy your immunity, destroy your disease fighting capacity, and it's a harbinger of diseases. So good health can be maintained, but a good diet, a little exercise, and good weight. I will let us, today, if we are fortunate to live in an era where we can share the experiences of good things were happening all over the world. New York State and the New York City was one city which had the maximum childhood obesity. So, all the concerned parents and the mayor and other people got together and they said, okay, this is like an epidemic. Obesity is actually defined as an epidemic by the WHO. So they said, okay, how can we stop it? And they said, the best thing to do is school health. So a simple thing they started doing in all schools was they started monitoring the BMI, that is the ratio of the height to the weight of children, and they started categorizing people according to the percentile variation that they had from obesity. And all the children who were obese, they were noted down. A person was assigned to them. This person would actually counsel them on the diet. They would go down to their home, open up their fridge and see what they are doing. And they found that one of the main culprit in increasing obesity in New York and other states was the portion size. They are the large 2-liter bottles, and then there are Maha burgers and the large fries. And somebody has to go and see in America what is a good portion size means. You are given. So that was the reason, and they started controlling that. And now, within 5 years, obesity in New York State has come down about 20 to 30%. So it's a big achievement, not too much, just doing a BMI. So 10 rupees spent on prevention of good health can save a lakh of rupees later on. Okay. So this, if we have not learned from this pandemic today, I think we are never going to learn. I mean, maximum deaths that we saw in Gangaram Hospital, which was the epicenter of all the problems in Delhi. We had people, the hospital bursting at the seams. We had people in the casualty, people outside in the makeshift arrangement. We had people being treated in their cars. And one common factor was there, that most of these people who had a severe disease, who could not be managed at home, were either a very obese person. The typical person in the ICU was an obese diabetic with hypertension. These are the patients who had the maximum casualty. So this epidemic has, actually shaken all of us and told us that, one, we must take care of our health. Our health is our primary responsibility. If we don't take care of our health, nobody else will. The second thing would be coming to the government of India or the state. But I would say that is something which is not in our hands. At least our health is our own hands. So if we take care of our health, we take care of our diabetes, our obesity, our nutrition, our exercise. And if we modify our lifestyle in such a way that we must have some time for ourselves in our race to achieve more, to be ambitious and over-ambitious, we have neglected our own health. You use all our resources to accumulate a lot of wealth. And then after some time, all this wealth is being spent to get that health back, which we lost because we did not take care of our health. So it's a very sad situation that we have forgotten to take care of ourselves. We have to think back. We have to think about our good physical health. We have to think about good diet. We have to think about mental health. We have to think about meditations. And I think 1 hour of every day must be kept aside for our own self, where you must meditate a little bit, do a little exercise, think about our plans, think about what we are eating. And I tell my patients, that's a simpler thing, because we are all human. I mean, if I tell all of you that every day you have to follow a diet plan, it will be very difficult. So I tell them from Monday to Friday, you be disciplined, you sleep at the right time, you eat the right kind of food, and maybe then on the weekend you can cheat yourself. That means you can eat out, can party. And this is what the whole world is doing. If you go anywhere in Europe, or you see that people from Monday to Friday, they get up in the morning, then they go to their office at 7 o'clock, and then they come back and then they, eat their normal home cooked food, sleep early. But I see in India that every day is a party time. People can have a party on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, on a Friday. They can wake till 12 o'clock in the night, and then 6 o'clock in the morning they have to go to their office and place and work. They have not had good sleep, and that is the beginning of the problems. You see. So I think it is high time we all, I would say, stir ourselves, shake ourselves, and come out of this kind of bad habits we got into, whether it is a lifestyle or and look after ourselves. Because if we don't help ourselves, I don't think anybody can help us. Thank you, Kanika.
Thank you so much, sir. I think we have moved on from becoming hunter-gatherers to binge eaters and hoarders, and beautifully, as you put on the word diversity, I think that is what is the biggest disease we are likely to face in coming years in our country, because we all are becoming couch potatoes. And very rightly said, I think a penny of prevention would be better than a pound of treatment. I think if we invest on our preventive measures, we would be definitely saving a lot in treatment and cure. And definitely, if we are having a good wellness, we would be able to get rid of a lot of disease which are non-communicable, and even in these communicable diseases, our immunities would be better placed. So I'll also come back to you for this set of questions. I would request now Dr. Ashutosh. Somehow I feel he's not visible on the video portal. Dr. Ashutosh, are you there? If Dr. Ashutosh is not there, I move forward to Dr. Mani, and I'll come back to Dr. Ashutosh. Dr. Mani, I would say, is one of the senior most pulmonologists of our country. And I think he has had the hands-on experience of treating the maximum number of patients in the COVID times. I have heard his name so much within the community, people seeking second opinions, third opinions from him when their patients are struggling with COVID. Sir is Director, COVID Management, Critical Care and Pulmonology and Sleep Medicine at Yashoda Hospital, Kaushambi, Ghaziabad. He has had an illustrious career spanning more than 35 years. He's been a pioneer in many fields. He has pioneered the field of critical care, pulmonology and sleep medicine in India. And he has been holding the key positions in many big societies. He has been a past president in Indian Society of Critical Care Medicine and chairman End of Care India Task Force. He has been a steward and brain in introducing the end of life care in our country. He has established the norms, the quality indices in the NABH. He has been a part of the FICCI illicit guidelines in end-of-life care planning, and a lot of DNR guidelines have been transformed under his guidance. He has been president of such big illustrious associations like the Indian Society of Critical Care Medicine. He's been the editor to the Indian Journal of Critical Care Medicine. He's been in the advocacy group of the End of Care India Task Force. And I can just go on the entire day about his career span. It is so tremendously amazing. He has scores and scores of publications and hundreds of publications in peer-reviewed journals. So it's our honor to hear from you on your perspective of how yoga can help in COVID patients. And I think it would be really insightful. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Kanika ji, for those very generous words. I have been inspired by Nagendra ji's talk, and Dr. Kalan's talk was so insightful. I must say I'm not an expert on yoga at all. I'm still a student of medicine, but parallelly I've been a student of yoga. It has been very attractive to me for two reasons. You know, I'm primarily a physician. Now I'm looking at health as a whole, not just as absence of disease. You know, WHO itself has said that health is a positive thing. It's not an absence of disease. So it's a holistic thing. So yoga attracted me because it was talking about the whole person. Now, increasingly, science, the mainstream scientific medicine is also pegged on this principle of looking at health holistically, not just at the physical level. We have gone at the physical level right to the molecular side, but beyond that, to the emotional, mental, and spiritual dimensions. And I must say, yoga is contemporary, or at least the wisdom of yoga can be translated into contemporary modern medicine. Medicine has also emerged from world's wisdom, from human wisdom, and nothing is excluded from the ancient wisdom to flow back into our modern consciousness and into our practice. The basic premise of yoga is that the human condition needs to be explored to the fullest. And we have 5 koshas. It's not just the physical body. There are 5 koshas of the physical, then the right up to the Anandamaya kosha, which is a consciousness. So yoga starts by saying that we must do chitta vritti nirodha, which is a slowing down of our vrittis, of the vibrations, which is so much in consonance with the modern concepts today of how we deal with our pulmonary and cardiovascular system issues. Slowing down the heart rate, slowing down the breathing has impacted greatly on many diseases. COPD, for instance, asthma, another, and other lung diseases, and also hypertension and cardiovascular disease. Now, so much has been said about obesity and lifestyle. Now, really, lifestyle is only an activity that comes in consonance with our natural requirements of the whole 5 koshas of the body. Now, if we are against the grain, we go viparit on the opposite direction, then obviously we create systemic harm and imbalances, so-called homeostasis in modern medicine. So we affect homeostasis at a very superficial as well as deep levels. So slowing down the heart rate has been proven by many experiments. Swami Ram subjected himself to many experiments in the West, which showed that heart rate can be, which is supposed to be autonomic, becomes under control through yogic practices. You can actually slow down. You can actually withstand many years physical pressure. We can withstand heat and cold and all sort of ravages of the weather through yogic practices. This has been shown and proven many times over. And dhyana is actually, what I understand as a student, is to get in touch with the Anandamaya Kosh, where you become tranquil, where the slowing down becomes not a practice but an actual living experience. And in that sort of state, the energy, the outgoing energies are stilled. And therefore, our consumption goes down. The whole problem of addictions and obesity is consumption. Since we are not in touch with our whole selves, we are always seeking outside. And such as such, we end up consuming a lot more than we need. And I think that is the basis in the modern times of what we see as obesity. Now, I have seen in the COVID times, as been mentioned by my colleague, Dr. Kalan, that obesity is a very huge risk factor. So is hypertension, so is underlying chronic disease. Now, all of these can be mitigated or minimized or prevented by an outlook, by a perception which makes us consume less. It's either consumption of a lot of calories or a lot of, nutrients in an abnormal manner, in an unbalanced manner, excess salt or excess sugar, for instance. Therefore, the prevention of COVID, for instance, a pandemic, for instance, should be pegged on restoring our health, on having the optimal health conditions, reducing obesity, reducing the problems of hypertension and diabetes, and also poor breathing. The breath has been linked so much with our health. And yoga was the first one really to define very clearly and disseminate that if you control breath, we control our wellness. We restore ourselves to our wellness. Breathing is purified, or breathing is made healthy through the process of slowing down, as we do in pranayama. We do that even with, of course, with exercise. In exercise, we train the muscles in the lungs in such a way that our baseline lung function is not at a high pitch. Our baseline functions are quiet. And this is what is so essential for lung health, for cardiovascular health. In COVID, we saw that not so many were dying of the virus. Most of the deaths were due to hyperimmune response, so-called the cytokine response syndrome, or CRS. What happens is, in the first week, the virus comes and goes. Most of us recover naturally without any medication, just by reassurances and by simple antipyretics. Come the second week comes a storm of the maladaptive response of the body. Maladaptive responses produce such a devastation by our own body against ourselves. Both the humoral and the cellular response are raised to attack our own tissues more than the virus, which is ebbing anyway. It opens up new vistas of thought. We do not as yet have clinical trials where yoga has been proven to reduce the hyperimmune response. But it seems a plausible theory that the hyperimmune response, which we do at a molecular level, we also do at an emotional and physical level. Emotional level, we have seen there has been a devastating emotional and mental health problems in COVID. Come through fear, come through excessive response. Excessive response has affected not only the patients, but also the doctors. Doctors tend to, a lot of time, respond more than is necessary with more medicines, or suffer more in their practice of medicine by becoming burnt out. And patients, as I told you, may respond through fear. And fear complexes are always have potential for self-harm. So looking at a holistic system which integrates a modern science, an ancient wisdom which has been the foundation anyway of all things modern, is the need of the hour. We know that as a country we have not responded to the healthcare needs adequately so far, and which has got unraveled in this pandemic attack like a war. It's time to consider where we prioritize our priorities of growth in a lopsided manner without taking healthcare growth along, or in a balanced manner, has to be looked at. And the equitable distribution of resources of health is another matter, because we understand that if we alone are healthy, people around us are unhealthy, we will all be caught in the trap. This has come to light very clearly. If in a pandemic, the exclusive elite are looked after and not everybody else, we all get caught in the second and the third wave. So with this knowledge at the scientific level, at the holistic level of healthcare for the individual, and at a systemic level in the country, we can move forward. Yoga as a principle, yoga conceptually, points towards clarity of thought. It talks against misconceptions. It delineates what are the reasons for misconceptions in the human consciousness. and how to overcome that. That is through cognitive understanding and through practice. This is what I have learned as a student, and I practiced yoga in whichever way I could over the past 25 years. And it has helped me greatly to understand the human being as well. So, practice of medicine involves a lot of compassion, and the compassion has to be understood through understanding of human, of what it is to be human. With these words, thank you very much, Kanika, and for this opportunity to share my views.
Thank you so much, sir. You have beautifully summated the learnings from this pandemic. I think unraveling on the need of ancient wisdom integration into our current medicine practices. That is what I think we all learned in a very painful way. I think we learned in a very painful, scarred manner that it is important to integrate all sciences together to work against this deadly virus. Thank you so much, sir. I'll come back to you again. We have two burning questions to ask you. Dr. Ashutosh is here. There was some issue in his bandwidth, so we could not spot him. He was there in the group. Dr. Ashutosh is one of the most humble ICU specialists, I would say, very, very empathetic. Even before the pandemic times, he was so well appreciated by the patients and their caregivers in his holistic approach. The hugs, the beautiful environment he has created in his ICU is remarkable. I would not say that because he's a colleague, but this comes from the patient's mouth. We get beautiful reviews out of him. He is head and senior consultant critical care medicine at Dharamshila Narayana Super Speciality Hospital. Has varied interest, especially since he's an intensivist, has a lot of experience in difficult airway techniques and a lot of different critical care support courses he has undertaken. He is leading our ACLS program and has been training thousands and thousands of people year by year in terms of gaining the knowledge on how to save lives, even if you are not in the hospital, and it has been critical in many, many situations. He has been the Executive Council member of Delhi NCR chapter of ISCCM since 2015. He has presented a lot of papers at international forums in context to his research, and he has had a lot of publications, more than 20 papers and posters publication. I recall his very, very novel innovation of reforming the system of protocols of de-intubation in the system, which was well appreciated and presented on national and international forums also. He has been conducting various audits via the EM Summit since 2014, and I think we will have a lot to learn from him because he himself is a yoga practitioner and does take it forward to his patients also. Over to you, Dr. Ashutosh.
Thank you, Dr. Kanika, for such a good introduction. Thanks, Assocham and Ministry of Ayush for organizing such a relevant and much needed discussion on the subject of yoga, which is actually far soil. The yoga originated from here, and now it is trying to gain some roots here again. So I'm very happy for that. That it is a very, very much required practice, which has to be there right from the and as a matter of fact, the way of life to lead your life in a very effective and positive way. So this topic is very close to my heart, very close to my heart, especially in the last 1 year. It has, this yogic practices have had a lot of reinforcement in my life, in the life of the patients I have treated in my team. We have devised some practices, some protocols so as to make patients in the COVID ICU or patients in the wards, how to make them happy, how to make them more cheerful and alive, so that they can fight the disease in a very better way. And I have seen in last 1 year while treating these patients that what wonders the yoga can do. We have had quite a few patients who were into some kind of practices, and they fared much better at physical, mental, as well as on the emotional levels. So as an intensivist, if you ask me, as an expert, ICU expert, I have seen patients battling for life, battling for the basics, the oxygen, the air. The air hunger I have seen in patients. It has transformed subtlest level, and I have been very much impressed by the immense strength the yoga and the yogic practices can give to some patients I have encountered, because it was my um, interest area. So I was talking to the patients. I never missed even a single day of my ICU round while I was taking care of the COVID patients. So it was a very, very tough time for us, for the whole society, especially for the healthcare workers, dealing with the COVID patients with this dreaded pandemic, when we had no beds, when we had no oxygen, when we were fighting for the basics. So if I talk of my area, that is ICU, I'll talk only on the experiential level, what all I have experienced from the patient's perspective, from the practices I am doing, how they have changed my way of thinking, my way of approaching the patients. So first and foremost is that yoga is basically a preventive tool. Most of the times you will have patients who were into this practice and they did well. Now there's no time to give yoga when the patients are there on some kind of machine support. They are in very bad shape. They are fighting for life. They are fighting for the air they want to breathe. At that time, I think yoga has, as such, especially the physical yoga, what we perceive yoga as, most of the people, they think that yoga is bending forward and bending backward. No, this is not the truth. So yoga is a way of life, a way of thinking, a way of being, actually, how to be at any place, how to be within yourself, how to act, how to react. All these things are taught by yoga. So if we talk of the COVID patients in ICU, it is a very tough time for the patients. We have seen patients who were very conscious, but they had very low oxygen levels. They came to us. Very intelligent patients I have seen fumbling when they come to the ICU, and they they are in a shocked state because they see patients right and left to them. Some of the patients are on ventilators, some procedures are being done. There are a lot of deaths also especially during this COVID wave. So just imagine the sheer stress uh, on these patients. They have had a lot of fear of death. They had a fear that what will happen to their family, to their kids, to their spouses if they die. So this all I have seen since 1 year. So what yoga does. If you are into some kind of practice, this practice can include the physical practices like asanas and pranayams. Then you can inculcate the mental practices, the meditative processes, which helps you to stay still, to stay calm during the stress hours when you are in the ICU, when you are trying to accommodate yourself on the machines. It is again a very, very difficult situation for the patient, which we cannot even think while we are not seeing these patients live on ground in the ICU. So the kind of required, you have to have something in your hand on the basis of. So yes, that helps, but again, that has to be initiated early in life, and it has to be taken as a comprehensive approach. Now, what the Ministry of Ayush is doing is a very welcome move. It is a commendable job, and I think it should be actually as a revolution, so that we are prepared for any pandemic. We are prepared, most of us. Yoga will not prevent the infection. Yoga will not prevent the disease to go there and make you sick. But yes, the degree of illness will definitely vary. And even if you fall very sick, by sheer willpower, by the mental strength, by the emotional stability, you will have a lot of strength to fight with the disease. So, as I have told, the yoga is encompasses the physical activities. Actually, yoga means union. Yog is union. So, union is what? You have to understand union with everything and everyone around you. It is actually expanding your consciousness, expanding your boundaries so as to make everyone around you, within you. It has to make you more inclusive, more stable at mental, emotional, and physical level, more accepting. It makes you more humble, more equanimous with the situation. The kind of erratic behaviors a lot of people throw around us is because they are not mentally and emotionally stable. So by doing this practice, by adopting yoga in your life, you can have a lot of positive effects. You will have a lot of gratitude for whatever you are getting. That is very, very important you get from yoga. You will be more in a surrendered mode. So all this is yoga. So once this yoga is there, you will be able to uh, fight in a very effective way, whether it is a corona pandemic, whether it is any other disease, whether it is a personal problem at all levels. It will help you. Now, the third most important thing is the what is the importance? We are talking here about yoga to the help of COVID patients, but what about the yoga to the help of the healthcare workers, to the help of doctors actually? Activities there at the level of healthcare workers and the doctors. We had a lot of manpower issues during these hours. A lot of, as Dr. Mani was telling us, a lot of burnt out. A lot of staff left us. So where we were talking about the ideal situation, where we were giving one nurse to one ventilator patient. Now we had one nurse for 6 ventilator patients, and that was the need of the hour. So how you can organize the whole things even in shortage, you know is a very difficult task. When doctors also do yoga, they are doing any kind of physical activity. Maybe if they are into running or some asanas or pranayam, they will have a robust physical health so as to bear the stress upfront on their body also. They will be more mentally and emotionally stable. So once they are stable, the patients will be having much more insight and much more help from the doctors also. So these practices, they also make doctors very compassionate, very concerned and loving. They will see patients as if they are their own family members. Once you have bad feeling, a lot of things, a lot of biases, a lot of bad interests, I would say, in our practice would obviously go away. It also instills a lot of confidence in the patients right at the bedside. You know, healing is not only about giving medicines and doing procedures. It is also, touching the patients, talking to the patients in a very positive way, making eye to eye contact. I tell to my team that it is very, very important. You have to make eye to eye contact. You have to instill confidence in the patient's mind, telling them that, everything will be all right. You will be perfectly fine. All these things are very important. I have seen these things working in my whole experience, um, and I think it has to be made in a very comprehensive way at national level. I think all the governments, all the ministries have to work in tandem, especially the HR ministry and the Ministry of Ayush, so that at least at the school level, this our ancient wisdom can be inculcated in our kids' mind, and we can go a long way with the help of this. Thank you very much. I think that's from my side.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ashutosh. I think you really highlighted the most human aspect of this pandemic. I think it was the fearfulness, and I believe all of us were touched by it, be it our patients. Even as healthcare professionals, we ourselves were so fearful. We were worried if we contact COVID, will we get beds or not? And I think this feeling had come to all of us, and definitely yoga helps in mental resilience building. It requires this comprehensive integration. I think Dr. Kallan also highlighted that it is the school time where we should integrate these practices. It is the preventive. I think the message is very clear that once patient is on the ventilator, we cannot, imbibe yoga practices then. We can give you the mental, reassurances then, but it is something we have to adopt early on. So I think early adoption would be the key for our yoga practices. And I think efforts like these webinars are going to initiate talks, and it would give food of thought to a lot of people to start practicing yoga in their life. So I will come back to you, Dr. Kallan. I think because now we're talking of how the bad lifestyles have been implicated in poorer outcomes in COVID patients. So if there is an obese and a diabetic patient who is more at risk of getting infected with COVID, or a badder outcome is expected, what advice would you give in context to yoga, or would you also combine something in context to diet, because yoga is also about healthy eating? So over to you.
For Dr. Kanika, I think all the speakers highlighted the fact that good health is the basic thing which is required to fight a disease. And when it comes to obesity, there are now thousands of papers which say that obesity basically is a pro-inflammatory state of the body. Pro-inflammatory means that there is a constant inflammation which is happening in the body. And this inflammation is going to involve the joints, it is going to involve the eyes, the kidneys, and almost every organ of the body, predisposing to young girls and boys to infertility, to cancer, and so many other problems. Also, once you start having obesity, you go into kind of a vicious cycle. That means the person who is a little obese will slowly avoid exercise, he will avoid climbing the stairs, he will avoid running, he'll become more obese, and when he becomes more obese, then he starts getting diseases and the problem. So it's a vicious cycle. So how do we break this vicious cycle? Now, this vicious cycle can only be broken by good practices. It is basically a lifestyle disorder, which has been, we have got it from the developed countries, because when we are becoming more affluent, this is the price of affluence we are paying. So, I have been always selling, in my last 3 years as chairman of Assocham, my maximum activities have been on school health. If you pick up any disease, whether it is mental disorders, whether it is obesity, whether it is diabetes, whether it is respiratory disorders, you will ultimately find that all these can be prevented at the level of the school. So in schools, we have to teach children that the importance of physical education. And unfortunately today, if you go to any school, in the race to get A plus and A2 plus and A4 plus, we have forgotten to tell our children to go out into the field and run around. In fact, we had given a paper to the government of India and the Education Ministry that some amount of marks should be given to children who have attained good health, who are physically very fit. So if you add that extra marks to their overall mark sheet, even the parents will encourage children to. I'm sad to say that we have to, add something like this to improve the state of health. So, it is not that today the pandemic has occurred and suddenly you offer them yoga and things can be. It has to be something which has told us that health is something which is built up gradually over time. Health is something which also deteriorates slowly with time. And I tell all my patients that if you are young, your body will, kind of tolerate all the nuances or the nonsense you are doing to that body. Whether you are not taking care of good food or you are eating junk food. The moment you touch 50 years of age, then your system starts collapsing. And I've seen that. I've seen people in India who are 52, 53, 54 years of age, and they look like as if they are 70 or 75, because they have abused their bodies. Abuse their bodies, that they have uncontrolled alcohol, eating too much fat fried food, sedentary absolute lifestyle, couch potatoes, and these things are causing the root cause of the problems. And obesity is something, and we've done a lot of initiatives. We actually called some cricketers and some other people from various walks of life, and we called all the school principals and tried to convince all the school principals that they should give more focus on physical education also. You must encourage the children to run around, because it is not that suddenly obesity has come. And another very important demographical problem that India is facing, or it can be a problem which nobody even wants to think of, is that we are a young country. More than 50 to 60% of our population is less than 35 years of age. Okay, we are talking about an 8% economic growth. I say we achieve that 8% economic growth. What is that? 35% of that population develops diabetes, hypertension, thyroid problems, mental disorders, stress-related disorders, infertility. Then what are we going to do with that unhealthy population? I mean, we'll be burdened, the society will be burdened with a very large number of unhealthy people. And that unhealthy people are not productive people. So we are burdened with a society with large numbers, with non-productive people, unhealthy people, and that might be a disaster happening in the future. Already we have become the diabetic capital of the world. Diabetes in Delhi is the diabetic capital. The number of diabetics that we have in our country is phenomenal. And according to a recent article published in Lancet, they said that close to 70 to 75 million Indians are going to be diabetic. So, these are figures which are alarming. These are figures which are, which are telling us that something needs to be done. When we used to talk about a crumbling healthcare system, we used to tell the country, the ministers after ministers, the governments after government, please increase the GDP percentage spent on healthcare. Nobody listened. What happened? If you see today, we have spent on so many other things. We have so many hotels, but has the government built up more hospitals which can take care of the tertiary healthcare? No. The only growth which has happened is in the private healthcare sector, and that too also is lopsided in metro cities. When the healthcare system of our country was designed, it was designed like a pyramid. That means the base was on the primary healthcare, a large base, primary healthcare, and then the pyramid top was tertiary healthcare, and which was focused in major cities. What has happened in the last 2 decades? The last 2 decades, we have seen growth only in the tertiary healthcare sector. That means we have the Apollos, the Max, the Gangarams, and other places in Delhi, in Bombay, in Chennai, in Bangalore. But what about our primary healthcare system? In the PHC today, in the villages and tier 2 cities, we don't even have doctors, we don't even have healthcare workers there. So the system has collapsed. There is probably, in this pandemic, it also, my driver went back to his village in Bihar, and he had taken about 10 to 12 strips of paracetamol tablet with him. He said, sir, udhar kerosene ka goli bhi kisi ko nahi mil raha. This is the state of affairs, you see. So the distribution, the discrepancies that we have in our country is bad. And again, I've been telling that we can use technology to the rescue of these people. So today, if we have a primary health center, a small school in a small village, and if you teach that teacher how to switch on the TV, then all these good programs that we have, we can be telecast to them. And through technology, we can teach the children good practices like hand wash, like menstrual hygiene, like yoga, like breathing exercises. So this is a very small cost. What is it going to cost? Internet is totally available in almost every part. If you go to the small hill station, everywhere the internet is available. All you have to maybe give an iPad or give a small TV and that teacher. So, I had gone to one small place for a vacation and I saw that a school teacher, there was for 400 children, there's one school teacher. So you can imagine the kind of quality education that school teacher might be giving. And when the teacher falls sick, that 400 students don't have anybody to teach them. So if we can use technology today, in let's say in one of the premier DPS schools in Delhi, they are teaching biology class, and the same telecast can be done to the small school over there. So I think we have to think of healthcare in a very holistic manner. And if this epidemic has not told us the importance of healthcare, I don't think anything else can. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think very rightly said. Sometimes, challenges open up opportunities. I think this pandemic has given a big opportunity for those who were not technology savvy to become technology savvy. We always
Absolutely.
have felt that each person has a smartphone in a hand. I think this pandemic taught them how to use it to its fullest. So I think digital would be the way forward. We have really learned in a harsh way that it can be used to reach even to the remotest. Our Covi app, for that matter, any app, people have been able to access it. Even our domestic health are able to access these apps and use them. So I think we as healthcare professionals should utilize this learning to take it forward for our awareness campaigns, and our outreach would increase. So I think that I really appreciate the fact we've always been a great fan of yours, because you were the one who actually thought before time. You did not wait for the pandemic to hit you.
Kanika ji, let me tell you, about 2 years back, we had sent a white paper to Assocham, to the Ministry of Health. We said, please give a smartphone to all your multi-purpose health workers, your Anganwadi workers. If they have a smartphone with them, they can show a patient, look, this is how the patient is, and you can actually go and advise them. You see what happened today, that, when the wave was almost getting over, the oxygen concentrators, which we are getting donations from all over the world, were being sent to small rural areas, small places, ventilators were being sent. But nobody knew how to use them. So if we have one person with a smartphone over there, you can actually teach them how to do it. So that is the importance of technology.
So definitely, sir, I think the lessons would go long, and I hope we continue to use them and not forget them, because we have a very short memory also when it comes to health. So now I come to Dr. Ashutosh again. So you talked about, what happens when patients are in the ICU, they are in the ventilators, but there are people who recover also. So what role would yoga play in rehabilitating them and when they're going back home? Because we hear a lot, people are very fearful that after a month somebody came back, and things are happening, particularly this pandemic. There are people coming after a month also. So is there a role of yoga in this situation?
Yes, Dr. Kanika, there is definitely a role of yogic practices in the rehabilitation process, and I would say more role while they go home. But then again, what we are doing, I'll tell you, we are following them up in the COVID OPDs, and we are giving them some chart of exercises. 7 or 8 exercises are there. We are telling them what to eat and what not to eat. We are telling them how to gradually increase the exercise tolerance, how to increase the level of exercise, so as to build the lung capacity again. Because what coronavirus is doing is it is attacking the lungs in a very bad way. It is actually causing a lot of fibrosis. So fibrosis means, fixed volume deficiency. So on exertion, the patients becomes very breathless. They again become very fearful that they may require the hospitalization or some kind of respiratory intervention again. So just talking to the patients, making them realize that it will take a little longer for them to take the normal life. And yes, the role of yoga, I tell them to do at least half an hour in the morning. To start with, they can do some basic asanas, some basic pranayam, maneuvers they can do. And I tell them to start from walking in the evening. So half an hour of asanas and pranayam, the simple ones, and then half an hour of slow walk. So gradually the lung capacity builds up. So yes, definitely the yoga, along with some basic medicines, some medicines to maybe treat or halt the process of fibrosis is the way we are dealing with it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ashutosh. So I think you highlighted the importance of the pranayam. So I will be taking this last question because we're running short of time. And Dr. Mani, I will be just addressing this question to you. So we all know that COVID is affecting lungs or the respiratory system majorly. I think even the laymen now understand that it's the lung which is causing problems. And a lot of challenges are being encountered because of that. So what advice would you give to patients to strengthen their respiratory system and how yoga can help? And I'll be digressing also a bit since you are a COVID expert. People are overdoing these steam inhalations and gargling. So how much to do? How much is excessive? I mean, we would want it from your own mouth that what should be the take-home message? How much exercise and gargling and steaming is required?
You see, in medicine, there is a very clear premise. What is not proven cannot be assumed to be useful. And since we do not know as yet what the harms can be, so this steam inhalation is not rational. I think the premise with which it was started, that it is inactivates virus and all that, has not been proven. Now, steam inhalation has a limited role of loosening secretions and maybe facilitating expectoration. However, to imagine that it is going to improve the lungs is not scientifically valid. So I do not loosely prescribe anything, even if it seems harmless at the outset. Second point is, what do we do with the lung to accelerate healing? I must point out that it is very clear that the majority of patients improve by their own healing processes. It is only it's 85% of the people who heal on their own. 15% need to go to a hospital. 5% get into an ICU. So this is the world statistic, and to a large extent true in our country as well. But what we do is, the treatment that's required by the 5%, we give to the whole of 100%, or whoever comes and knocks at our door, which is over treatment, and it is certainly not proven. It is not sanctioned by evidence basis. What has happened that I can see is a lot of harm has come from treatment that is not appropriate to the condition. For instance, excessive medication or excessive rest can set you back, not just because of the lungs are not healing, but because your muscles have taken a hit, your fitness has taken a hit, and your conditioning has taken a hit. Appropriateness of treatment is very important. So every drug that we choose, particularly steroids, we must use only within the narrow bounds of evidence basis. The timing of the steroid, the dose of the steroid, and the duration of steroid have been very well delineated by large scale studies. There have been innumerable of these studies in the world now. It also comes to link itself with what we have understood from yoga. The whole of yoga is predicated or founded on the principle that the body itself has energies and strengths to heal. It is not with the understanding that healing processes have to be accelerated from the outside, not at all. Healing processes should not be sort of hampered by the outside. There are certain small subset of patients who need help with medicines, not everyone. So our focus for the majority and the minority where drug intervention is required is very well delineated by modern medicine evidence basis. Wherever the evidence is weak, that evidence is growing one way or the other. Either it proves that it's not useful, then we should accordingly adjust our practice, or it gives further credence to its use, then we should sort of use with more conviction and with more nuancing. But basically, it is the body's healing powers which heal. For instance, the post-COVID syndrome in the lungs. There's a so-called fibrosis is only another name for scarring. Any injury tissue injury produces scarring, and that's in medical language is fibrosis. So not all scarring needs to be interfered with. There is a lot of evidence that with time there's remodeling of the lung, and then over time the lungs heal. So we must facilitate this healing by going back to healthy practices in terms of exercise, rehabilitation, and minimizing medicines, or using medicines only in the narrow subset of patients which are well defined and well understood. So this is my message, Kanikaji, that we must not forget the principles of yoga in modern treatment. Principles of yoga are we must be grounded in the principle of self-healing. Okay, and the majority heal by the self, by natural processes. And all we need to do is to support and to facilitate the natural processes rather than working, contrary. And this is the basis of our overtreatment. We have caused much harm by overtreatment as well. And it is good to hold a mirror to our face. Many of the complications are probably, avoidable. And minimizing of medicines to only those medicines which are properly evidence-based. None of the experimental medication should be used on a large scale. Experimental medication ought to be used in a small subset of patients in a controlled manner as a part of a trial, so that we understand, we keep one door open for new understandings.
Absolutely, sir. I think it is your years of experience which are definitely provoking the fact that evidence-based medicine is what we should be practicing. And I think that is the order of the day. We as scientists do not believe anything which is not evidence to. A proof of evidence is mandatory. And definitely, sir, promotion of self-healing and facilitation of self-healing is what we would definitely act as an allied medicine to our medical practices. So it was a very, very engaging panel. Despite being an oncologist, I think my learning always increases by interacting with people of your stature. It was an enriching experience for myself. I once again want to, congratulate Assocham and Ministry of Ayush for creating this platform on sessions of yoga in these pertinent times, and would want to invite Mr. Arpit Dubey to give his concluding remarks. Mr. Dubey is the Assistant Professor in the Morarji Desai National Institute of Yoga at the Ministry of Ayush Government of India. He is a very, very well-read person holding the doctorate in Sanskrit from the Delhi University. He has been teaching Sanskrit at various forums and is also published in the fields of philosophy and yoga practices. He has been a very, very pertinent publisher in many peer-reviewed journals. He's a renowned speaker and is a very frequent guest in the All India Radio for his talks on yoga, and visits a lot of universities in delivering lectures in the field of yoga. Over to you, Dr. Arpit Dubey. Please give the concluding remarks.
Thank you. Namaste, Pranam. I find myself to be fortunate enough to present the concluding remark for IDY Sunday discussion series. At the outset, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to most respected Dr. H.R. Nagenji, Chancellor Yes Vyasa University, Bengaluru, for his enlightening keynote address. Thank you so much, Guruji, for sharing your insight and thoughts on today's topic of discussion. It is an honor to have you with us on this Sunday discussion series, IDY 2021. I am also thankful to respected Sri Bikram Singh Ji, Director, Ministry of Ayush, Government of India, for his constant support and motivation to make these Sunday discussion series a successful one. I am also thankful to Dr. Sudhir Kalhan Ji, Chair, Assocham Healthcare Council and Senior Consultant, Minimal Accesses and Bariatric Surgery Center, Sir Gangaram Hospital. Respected Dr. Ashutosh Bharadwaj Ji, Head and Senior Consultant, Critical Care Medicine, Dharmasila Narayan Super Specialty Hospital. Dr. R.K. Mani Ji, Director, Pulmonary and Critical Care, Yashoda Super Specialty Hospital, Ghaziabad, for sharing their valuable thoughts and visions on today's topic of discussion. Thank you so much, sir. I am also thankful to Dr. Kanika Sarma-ji, Clinical Lead and Director, Radiation Oncology, Dharmasila Narayan Super Specialty Hospital and member AWF for her opening remark and moderating the session. I also express my warmest thanks to media persons, all my dear friends who have joined from India and abroad. Last but not the least, I would like to extend my thanks to the officers of Ministry of Ayush, Morarji Desai National Institute of Yoga, and Assocham, and everyone who have been directly, indirectly associated with today's event for their untiring support and effort. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. I think it was a wonderful Sunday morning, and we really learned a lot from each other. I think, and we will continue to learn more at many such forums. Thank you, Payal. Thank you, everyone from Assocham, for conducting such a nice series of sessions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kanika, for being such a good moderator.
You're welcome, sir. It was my
Same
honor.
here, Dr. Kanika. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kanika.
Great. Thank you, Ji.
Nidali?